And if we had something like that, and like small groups,
that's the
1,000
kind of
people,
Amish I want to be. Yeah.
but not even Amish. We could have internet and whatnot. We could just live outside of the system. We could establish our own city states, right?
Who's
Like
we, bro?
we, like all the flat Earth community, anyone who's a flat Earther could establish communities with like-minded people. They
It
could
doesn't
they
work
could
like that,
assimilate
man.
together, huh?
It doesn't work like that.
What do you mean it doesn't work like that?
Well, society as a whole doesn't kind of work like that. It would be good to have like a commune of flat earthers that kind of that would be kind of cool, like-minded people. But we really want to change hearts and minds of the entire country and the world at
Well,
large.
you start. I'm saying you have to start independently. You're not going to do it any other way. You're not
Right.
going to have one
Roots
school
it.
board.
Yeah.
They could have their own school curriculum. The Amish do. That's
For
the only
sure.
way is to break away. Is to break away, and you establish autonomy within a region, and you do it. You do it like a polka dots everywhere. They could be 100 people. They could be 200, 500 people. You have different sects of Amish people. You have Mennonites, Amish, and you have even different types of Amish. Like they're not all one monolith. So they all have their own little
Right. Correct.
clan or whatever you want to call it, community.
Well,
Would you
I've
be
been through the public school system and the private school system, both with my kids, and after looking at the entire situation, the way it's run, I just think it's so much with modern technology and the way it is, and all of our problems in every one of our cities with growth and everything else. I just think homeschooling that and changing the curriculum would be the short term, and you would have to do it locally, just like you said, grassroots, build it up, and those communities flourish, and then other communities say, "Hey, I like what they're doing," and then join. And before you know it, yes, that's the grassroots way of doing it. If we can't get a social media like explosion, like which I believe that's happening almost now. But you're a 10-year veteran, and I'm right now looking at this thinking that there's an explosion happening, and maybe it's not. That's why I think it's interesting to get your point of view on it.
If it does go to a tipping point, what do you think they're going to do though to stop this tipping point? Do you think they have a play ready?
Yeah, they're already they ridicule like homeschoolers, like they're the butt of all the jokes. Like, haha, they're homeschoolers. But a lot of the homeschoolers, they can read and write. And the people in the public schools, the illiteracy rate, they graduate illiterates in public school. So which is better, right? A well-taught, like the mother, they could be strict or whatever, but usually the children, they pass their test, right? They're literate. So I think they're doing a better job, the homeschooled children.
There's a lot of other stuff that goes along with that, but yeah, cursive writing, they're not learning so much, but they are learning tons of social stuff and DEI stuff. All that's included, and
all the stuff about the degeneracy, like trying to convert them to another gender.
That's what you're taking it away when you decide to homeschool your kid. They're not spending hours a day in that, traveling back and forth to school and going from class to locker, and none of that helps them grow their mind. Right. Which is, if you're a parent, that's really what you want. You don't want to just have someone babysitting them for half the day. Maybe you do. I don't know. But if you care about your kid, you don't want that. You want them actually stimulating their mind.
That's how Rockefeller, he took control of the school system, and then he brought women into the workforce so that not only they could be taxed, but they couldn't stay home with the children and homeschool them. So they had to, dad was at work, now mom is at work. Where's daycare? Oh, send the kid to school. Someone will teach them, and both parents will work. So now both parents could be a tax slave, and the child can be brainwashed in their brainwashing institutions. And by the time the child is old enough, they will have been indoctrinated, and they like things about the globe and everything that they're taught in school, the Big Bang and evolution and all these nonsense. Their mind will be molded by the time they're an adult. And oh no, mom, you're wrong. Oh, dad, you're wrong. You're just a bigot, homophobe, or whatever. Right? Like that's what will happen. They will turn children against their parents. And then once the parents are wiped out, with the jab, the parents and grandparents are gone from the jab. Who do they fall back on? The state, right? That's how that's how they did the reset. Like World War II was a reset. World War I and II, they purged all the elders. All the elder men were purged. Before that, they knew about the previous civilization. They went to mental institutions and they purged them with wars, and that's how they thinned the herds. Even with the jab, they had a jab in 1909. There was the Spanish flu, and people were dying from the jab back then. They're repeating the same shit. They're
It's
repeating the
almost
same
like every
playbook.
Yeah, it's almost like every time they get threatened, hey, let's have another war and kill off the people we don't like. You know, get them
No,
out.
I think it's when it leaks out.
Trump's the savior candidate that can come in and do the things we wouldn't allow anyone else to do. That's why you're right on the money there. And I get a lot of flack for going against Trump. And even though, hey, I voted for him. Hey, I wanted this stuff. I like what he's doing. I want the Department of Education to go away. I want nobody to be taxed under $150,000. I want all that stuff. So I'll cheer him on all day long while knowing he's not for us, really.
Yeah, like everything. I don't disagree with the message at all. Like everything he's saying, I don't disagree with that. The thing is, like he has another. He's not our guy. It's like Mr. H. If you listen to his speeches, a lot of that stuff sounds good. Like what he's saying, he's like calling out the people. Like Trump called out the birth certificate of Obama. Like I don't disagree with what he's saying. Like calling out the banksters and all that. I don't disagree with that. But he's secretly working for the other team, right? He literally did the Balfour Declaration. He was working for the enemy the whole time. But you have to brainwash the plebs to where they would send their sons to war. They believe in you so much. Like the Trump-tards would send their only son to war if Trump said so. Like if Trump was
I'm glad you brought that up because I was watching about the Amish today, and they are the ultimate pacifists. So would you guys be a pacifist as well?
Yes. Fuck yes. No bankster wars at all.
Love it. No, knowing what we know now, there is another way.
Right. You're literally they're convincing people to do killing. They're all bankster wars. And even left right, the left-right division, there's more people like the anti-war left. Like, okay, I'm not in disagreement with you. What do you mean? I'm anti-war as well. But I don't buy the two-sided bullshit because they're both the same team. At the top level, you know, it was funny. When Bush was president, like Nancy Pelosi and the left, they fucking hated Bush. Obama, they despised Bush. But then afterwards, there's pictures of Bush and Obama, and they're all buddy-buddy. You know what I mean? They got their smiling, they got their arm around each other. They're all buddy-buddy. And behind the scenes, probably Trump is as well. He was friends with all the same people, the Clintons and the Bushes and Pelosi and all of them. Jeffrey Epstein. Trump was friends with all those fuckers.
As George Carlin said, you know, it's a big club and you ain't in it.
Right? It is a worldwide club, but it's not very big. I mean, I guess it is. If you include all the useful idiots, like the Freemasons, those are like the useful idiots, and they keep them that way because they have them all. Everything is classified at different levels in Freemasonry, and they even have like a red and a blue version, so they keep secrets from each other. So can you really trust all the secrecy within an organization, and even the military? Oh, you're a private, you're a colonel, you're a general, you're a 4-star general. They have all different levels of security clearance.
I really don't think that it all goes up to like a singular tippy top point. I have much more of a mental conception of just all these power hungry people with like a vague sense that they're better off working together mostly against most of the rest of the global population than there being like any one singular supreme overlord.
Okay, well there's a wolf pack and then there's alpha, right? And then there's all the other wolves that go in the wolf pack and do the right. So all the alphas, you could say like a Bill Gates and Zuckerberg and Bezos and all the billionaires, Larry Ellison, right? Those are like they're okay with their slice of the pie. They have a big fucking slice of the pie. So at the Vatican and the royal families, they also have a big slice of the pie. So they don't care if the Rothschilds have more. So like they're all, yes, they're subservient to higher ups, but they're satisfied with their piece of the pie. They all own such a huge piece of the fucking pie that I mean, if you have Bill Gates' wealth or Larry Ellison, what difference does it? Do you need to be as wealthy as Rothschild? Do you need to own nations? Like, or are you satisfied owning mansions in every country that you want, having as big of a yacht as you want? Like, you don't have anything that you want. Like, what more could you want?
This is a bit of an aside, but like, are the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers like really the biggest players in it anymore? I mean, they were dominant.
Yes. Rothschild is 1,000 times bigger than Rockefeller, like 1,000. Rockefeller is still powerful.
The Vatican.
Yeah, the Vatican is subservient to the Rothschilds and to the royals. Like, dude, let me show you this picture. There's a picture of one of the Rothschilds. He's poking Prince Charles, who's the king now. He's like talking to him, like he's scolding a little boy. And the look on Prince Charles' face, he knows he can't do a damn thing about it. So he's just taking it in the ass.
I saw that.
Right. And that's what I mean. A lot of people will never see that.
I mean, maybe. I think this is the point where I begin to feel like a certain level of detailed decoding doesn't matter anymore. It's like we've got a general idea of who the most wealthy and powerful people in the world are, and I don't feel very confident in speculating further what all the internal dynamics there are. But
well,
like,
you don't need to.
These are
you
all
don't need to get to the top of the pyramid. Like like it's an octopus. It's a hydra with many arms, and if you cut one off, it's not going to matter because there's many more tentacles. Like unless you take the head, the Rothschilds are the fucking head of the octopus. If you take that out, they are the head. The rest are tentacles.
Just waiting for a moment. This is in response to what I think Z-Pop.
Yeah.
It would make more rational sense to me that you wouldn't, like, if you were in power and you want to sort of manipulate the activities of man, that you would actually not want to be known. So, I mean, I got this notion, like, it kind of makes sense, right? But I got this notion more from looking at Francis Bacon and his work. because he coined a term, the hidden life is best. And if you also sort of delve into the notion of what's being presented by the 48 laws of power, the means by which to actually control vast swathes of power is actually not to have your enemy, or in this case, the thing that you're wanting to control, to actually know where that influence is coming from. So if I can pick up something more like tangible that we can discuss, or like just point out, essentially the monarchs during the First World War, like, you know, some guy named Franz Ferdinand or something got shot, and everyone decided to go for war for some crazy reason. What it seems to suggest to me is that the monarchs actually wanted to hand over power to the political democratic system, because it allows them to wash their hands of responsibility now. It turns out actually Lizzie has, like, you know, the final say on anything that runs through the British Parliament, right? That's actually in their law. But she won't use that because, well, I mean, she won't use it unless she actually has to. Turns out there are all these MPs already controlled by this. But then when the public, you know, have got protests against the powers that be for lockdowns, various sort of other things, they never went and protested the monarchy, really. They protest the politicians. So it becomes like a facade that...
That's what I'm saying. The politicians are the heat shield. Yes, people know of the royals. They know of the Rothschilds. They know those names, but they think the real power is coming from the people they elect. That's the psyop. And that is the heat shield for the real power, the hidden hand. They're like, oh no, that's just some old rich royal family. They have no real power, right? When in reality, or even the Pope, right? Oh, the Pope has no real power. Like, yes, they do have fuck tons of power.
Well, I feel like this is my point, that I just don't feel like I'm in any position to know for sure what it really looks like behind the scenes and what's the current ranking of who is above
Nobody
who.
can
I
nail that
definitely
down.
don't
Like,
think it's a rigid hierarchy. That's, you know, my read on it.
Like, there could be, like, the 13 bloodlines, right? If you know what they are. Like, maybe it is more of a like a corporation, a multi-head corporation. Like, yeah, to say Rockefeller has no power is complete bullshit. Of course he does, right? Even Soros. Soros is a much lower level than, like, Rockefeller even. But there's a pecking order. Like, you would never see Soros poke the king in the chest. He would never do that.
I guess
he would never do it to the Pope, right? He would never disrespect the Pope. There's a certain pecking order.
Hail Hydra.
Hail Hydra. You know, I'll leave it to others to try to figure out what the exact pecking order is, but what I think about a lot is that in the past, it was very obvious that the doors to the club were very tightly closed off. And I've been thinking about kind of how brilliant the modern system is when you think about what we're all told from birth, you know, like dressed up as the American dream. Like, what are we told? We all have a chance. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, you could be the next president. You could be the next Bill Gates. You could be the next movie star. You know, hard work, bit of luck. You could rise up the ranks of society, be a billionaire, join the elite. And yeah, in like every generation, a handful of people have their rags to riches stories. They're inducted up.
And you know what? When you look at them, you can trace their roots to a very well-connected family. Like Bill Gates, right? He invented it in his dorm room. Mark Zuckerberg, same story. Hewlett-Packard, same story. Google, the two Russians, same story. Like a rags to riches, just invented in a garage. It's like, okay, I keep hearing the same fucking thing. I don't see anybody coming up like that, rags to riches.
Obama and Bush are cousins or something, aren't they?
Obama and Bush, all of them, all of the presidents are related, have a common ancestor. This girl did like a science project, and she said she traced all of them back to like common ancestry overlapping with every president.
Yeah, I'm not.
They have some cousin related to each other, some string along the way.
I'm not diminishing the dominance of, you know, certain powerful families over history, but I don't think it is completely fake that there are new inductees. I think that's real, but I think that's part of the system of control, because you get people hoping it could be them, and what you don't know is that if you are one of the lucky ones whose business really starts taking off, whose career really starts exploding, who lands the movie role, who moves up in politics, who now has a 2,000 person company that you've built with your sweat and blood, at some point they come to you and they say, like, nice thing you got going here. Wouldn't you like to keep progressing further? You know, this is the fork in the road. You know, you get with the program or you're destroyed. So a
lot of those people, you don't get to that size unless you're at least a Freemason. Like, you don't get to that level of having 1,000 companies or 1,000 employee company. They're all like connected, like Sam Walton for Walmart. Like, if you're going to get to multi-billion-dollar corporations of that size, you can be a small level millionaire. Like, say you could be worth like 10 million or something. That's not like impossible to come up and be like mid-level, even 50 million. But to get like to the billionaire stage or 100 million, you have to be connected with some kind of Freemasonry or something. or they will squeeze you out of business. Like because there's always competition, you will get squeezed out in favor of the other person.
Yes, definitely. I think I don't imagine that things are as rigid to like the traditions and protocols of a lot of these secret societies as they were hundreds of years ago. I don't know. Look, this is my speculation here. I feel like the systems of control are flexible and always find a way to perpetuate themselves, kind of in whatever form that they need to take and in whatever way they need to adapt to.
Well, that's what
global
they want you to
circumstances.
think. You're taking the bait. You're actually you swallowed the bait.
I don't think
Like
it's following any bait. I think that's saying that.
Well,
that
you're believing the narrative. You just swallowed the bait.
no,
It
no,
worked.
no, not even slightly. What I'm saying is that old systems of control, I do think they perpetuate, and I also think that they have a certain pragmatism and flexibility each century to kind of adapt to global circumstances. So all I'm saying is I don't think that they necessarily stick to all of the specific traditions of how it used to work 200 years ago. I think they're probably more.
Know? Like they've
No, I'm not
maintained
saying
a
no,
very rigid control. The control hasn't slipped. Like it's still a very rigid structure.
No, yeah, but I think that some of the form and the implementation, morphs over time, but it always finds a way to perpetuate itself. And I'm only coming from the position of I think we shouldn't underestimate the power of systems of control to mutate, to pretend like they're making concessions to the people and changing things, and then just reworking it behind the scenes to keep perpetuating the power they have. So I'm not like strongly disagreeing with anything you're saying, but I do feel like some of the fixation I see in the truther community about like how we now know things used to work like a century ago, I don't know if that's as relevant today as people think it is. Because I don't know that we're in any position to know like what form things are taking behind the scenes, which it just really comes back around to like the Rockefeller and Rothschild thing of like I'm not sure that they're as proportionally powerful as they had been in 1910 within, kind of the broader oligarchy world order, whatever you want to call it.
I think they do one of two things. They seem to sort of steep into the shadows because, they've been unmasked too much, right? So they need to switch the players. And this is why you got guys like Zucker, Elon, Trump that come out and they put on sort of like this sort of affectation of a novel new thing that's going on. But good chances are that whatever these names are that we call them by, and yeah, they can just switch out characters at will almost.
I'm sure we've all thought about. I'm sure we've all thought about this. That the very people we're talking about are flat earthers too. They're just quiet and don't allow any speech about it.
Well, you just look at MAGA, Trump, and MAGA is like fifth level order Satanist. There's all this symbology that's kind of curiously going on within all these players, and it turns out they're related and they kind of know each other. And after the sports match that is politics, they sort of they show great sportsmanship to one another. So this hatred is confected for the masses in order to follow and stir it up.
Yeah, it's maybe to clarify where I'm coming from. I think a lot about a lot of examples in history where there's been revolution against, the royal family, the elites, the people in charge, the aristocracy, and the people who come up and end up taking hold of the revolution turn around and just become the next dictator themselves. And like, oh, whoops, turns out they've got a whole bunch of the old elites within their government. And it doesn't mean they didn't throw some of the elites under the bus, but, to pull the whole fast one on the people. But I think we don't necessarily always know what's going on amongst elite circles, and I wouldn't put it past there being schisms amongst the elites and a willingness amongst some of them to sacrifice others when they see the opportunity to do so, to then re-cement their own power, and that keeps it very slippery and very hard to know from the outside of who's the lower next levels, person coming up. Yeah,
like Bill Gates and Zuckerberg and what's his name, Bezos, they were all vying for the title of Forbes' richest man, whatever. Like there was a certain pissing contest between the billionaires at a point, right? Like the bragging rights or whatever. And but like I said, at the end of the day, does it really matter if you had Bill Gates' wealth, Mark Zuckerberg, Bezos, like any of those fuckers, Elon Musk? like Larry Ellison, if you've seen his yachts and his beachfronts in Malibu, like all those people are richer than you could ever imagine. Like the wealth is endless. So it's like there's like one isn't a peasant and one's rich. Like they're all equally. What's a few billion? If you got 100 billion or 200 billion, is there any difference in your lifestyle?
Yeah, no, and I think faces can change and the system can stay the same, and that's what makes it really hard to.
Well, that's the whole point of the democratic system in a lot of ways, right? Like they put someone in, they pull them out,
That's
and
another
it
layer
means
of it,
that the problem is always morphing and changing as far as what people have to respond to. It sets the playing field for like I can't remember exactly how you turned it before, but I would suggest actually it's something more akin to these guys join a team. They agree to like upon a set of rules what can and can't be done within like playing this game that they're playing, and things like flat Earth, the medical system, like they've got very narrow lanes through which they're allowed to actually challenge one another and actually like it is a true competition of sorts, but and there are consequences to playing the game. That's the sort of nature of it, but it still like implies that there are rules to what they can and cannot say.
Very interesting. So what must they think of us groups or groups like Earth Awakenings here, Flat Earth groups that have gotten this knowledge through means of acquiring the knowledge the hard way, and they have had to pay a price, these elite people join these Skull and Bones, whatever it is. They've paid a price to get in these clubs and to be a part of this. And here we are out here gaining all this knowledge, knowing the truth. And they can't speak it. They have to pretend, and they know that we know the truth and we can speak the truth. What must they think of us? I wonder that sometimes. Do they hate us, or do they have a rule, like you said, where they have to bite us, or they really secretly like us, but they have to speak against us, like Netanyahu at the UN? The flat Earth.
They hate us all equally. They hate all the plebs equally. It's not like some plebs are more valuable than others. They hate us all equally. So it's literally us and them, the elites and the plebs. That's the divide. Like you're either one of them, or like a Freemason is kind of like an in-between pleb. That's a useful idiot. Like the pleb is below a useful idiot in their mind. Like we're just useless. They call us useless eaters.
Right.
So
they have more information than we do. We're still figuring things out, I'm sure, and they still hold that, as they're still the elite, because I'm sure they know a lot more, like what's past Antarctica.
Yeah, and they don't really care. They don't care that we know, because like we've known this and nothing can be done. Like, okay, so what? There's not a damn thing you can do. Like when they smoked Maui, they had smoked Paradise before that, and Santa Rosa before that, and Fort McMurray, Canada, in 9/11. Like they're just doing it because there's a plausible deniability, and nobody can say who's actually doing it. So they do it with unabated. They just go. They just do it. People know what the fuck happened. They don't know who actually called the order to do it. You know what I'm saying? But here's the thing. People in Maui know that Tom Hanks and Oprah's property didn't burn. The governor, the mayor's house didn't burn. But all the fucking plebs, their shit is disintegrated.
Does everyone remember the Panama Papers that like it came out that almost every elite name on the book we could say are all tied to the same like secret shady Shell Corp thing out of I forget the details of it, but
yes.
But I think sorry, but I don't think they really consider anybody to be a threat, because the thing is like leaks do happen. As much as I hear people here talking about like the need to get the truth out, like leaks happen all the time. We're all talking about this freely now. No one's getting arrested at the moment. It's like it doesn't matter.
Conversing, having discord.
Yeah. But it doesn't seem to matter.
We could talk. We're just a couple of plebs in a room talking amongst ourselves. We're speaking to the choir. Like sometimes there's a couple trolls in here, but other than the trolls, everyone in here kind of knows the same shit. You know what I mean? We kind of already know. Like we're not telling anybody anything new.
When it comes to people actually trying to converse back and forth, regardless of the amount of information that either one of them have, in completely opposite points of view of their world paradigms. At what point? Should it be at the beginning, middle, end, conclusions, things like that? This is where James, from Modern Day Debates, I do believe he derived his PhD based upon many, many hours of...
We're talking about.
Fibonacci, I really agree with I think you were saying about the concept of building autonomous communities, having lots of little dots of resistance, self-reliance, community, any extent to which it's outside the systems of control, and trying to just like plant the seeds of that wherever you can. Like that's also, the vision I have.
It could be small, like even let's say 10 families. If you have 10 families within one region, and you and you grow it from there. Like, oh, someone else would like to join your community. Well, let's interview them. Let's see if their morals and beliefs align with ours. And yeah, okay, here's another piece of land adjoining. Come on in. You're welcome. And then you just, like, if you had 1,000 communities, or even start with like 100 across the whole country, and then you just connect the dots in between. And eventually people want to leave the other places like, oh man, they're teaching my little Johnny learned this at school today. Oh my God, they had a transgender guy reading in a dress, and I just don't reading to my 5-year-old, and I can't have that. And then people, like, maybe they have a tipping point and they move outside of the system for whatever reason.
I would love to elaborate that in just a moment, but was I speaking to an audience that was able to hear me, but I couldn't hear you?
Yeah, something was going on. Yeah,
Shit,
you
okay.
couldn't hear us. You couldn't hear us or something.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you. I had to adjust my volume. Okay, sounds good.
Well,
Draft dodge.
well, what if they initiate a world war? What do you guys want to do? Are you going to participate?
Participate.
Draft dodge.
Yeah, I'll
Conscientious
have to worry about
objector.
that, I guess.
I never thought I would align with the hippies and being anti-war, back in the day, for sure.
Well, what good is it? I mean, if you could beat sense into somebody, the world would be a utopia. I'd do it for all you guys. I'd beat sense into every one of you, just for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. But that's not how it works.
Yeah, that's a very open-ended question that is also circumstantial based on the priorities of the person that is being forced into a certain position.
Yep.
I mean, it's tough because if you got a system of a lot of kind of loosely federated communities, like a community of communities, where there's like a lot of room for people to live in the community of their choosing and a lot of cooperation between different communities and not a center of central control, it feels like you'd be very vulnerable to a very centrally controlled army storming in. I mean, this feels like the conundrum of all of human history is how do people who don't believe in power and domination successfully resist the people who are willing to use the tools of power and domination? And I definitely don't have any easy answer on that, but
everybody gets a gun. Yay.
Well, I mean, that's definitely, there's a role for that in there. But I think it's a complicated question of
It is.
how to make it really work on a large scale and not just be, like 10 people, hanging out in their little sequestered mountain town, but,
Well, what you
hiding
said
away from
earlier,
everything.
a moment ago, was a conundrum. It's a mental and moral conundrum. Sort of like if someone were to be forced into a position of the Vietnam War. That's the last time we had a draft, as far as I know. But drafts have happened before in the past. And I think it takes an act of Congress to actually pass that and force people like, oh yeah, we don't really care what you're doing, but you're going to join the military. The only exceptions to the rule are if you're completely handicapped or if you are currently enrolled in higher academia. And then they were exempt from that. So when it comes to people that are going to be put into a militaristic type of position, yeah, there's exceptions to the rule. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be fighting for their country if the time comes and it's necessary. But most of the time, in my opinion and experience, war is not necessary. It's diplomatic.
Yeah. I mean, America, originally, it wasn't supposed to even be a central standing army, right? It was like the states would call up their own militias on an as-needed basis.
Well, I really hope that people that are currently alive right now that are in that age range of being part of that military fighting force never have to experience that.
Yeah.
I did it voluntarily, and it's a life lesson. But either way, when it comes to these military proponents, they are warmongers, and they're also the ones that are profiting off of the death of people. It's kind of a dark way to say it, but also in regards to how people are going to be profiting with the military-industrial complex.
Hey, Andrew, I'm prior military and an Army brat too. Plus, my son's of draft age now. And if you had a son of draft age and Trump was going to call up that, not Biden, of course, we would have hollered to the 10th degree if Biden tried it. But if Trump did it, we'd fall right in, right? Or the plebs would, like we say. But I would not. I'd be way opposed to my son joining up in any military right now. And I don't, what I see, because I know how I was raised. I was raised to think of people who would do that because I grew up thinking bad of those people, who draft dodgers and all that. You know how we're programmed. But I was just wondering, would you do the same if you had a son right now? Would you prevent him break the law, prevent him from joining?
That's very circumstantial, and I would say, for the most part, if they were drafted, I would say it's probably not a good idea unless they were educated to a certain extreme, to a certain level, where they're able to actually choose their job, whether being officer or enlisted. But if someone is going to just be like, oh, by the way, my name Andrew Baker, like, oh yeah, you're in Vietnam and you have to join the military because the government tells you to, because of selective service. That I'm against. However, the military for a lot of people is very, very beneficial, whether they agree with the military or not. It teaches discipline. It educates them.
I told you I'm prior military, so yeah, I know.
Yeah, I did 6 years as a combat vet. So
You got me
Oh,
beat.
and-
I was also an army brat for my whole life, so.
Yeah, Andrew, definitely, I can see how the discipline is so beneficial, and there's so many benefits to defending people. And yeah, from a Christian point of view, we're in a spiritual war too, so it does require a lot of discipline.
Well, it's not necessarily about the Christian point of view. It's just about some people grow up in households with a single mother, and then after that, the military actually gives them guidance, and the military becomes somewhat of their father figure. I'm not going to say it's a bad thing or a good thing, but I wouldn't say that being drafted into that position would be a good thing. That's forceful.
Well, another thing, the United States has become the world's police, pretty much. So anytime there's any kind of bullshit in the world, who do they call on? They call on the United States. Here, go like stop down this insurrection or whatever. That's what the United States is. So it's different than like if you're in the Canadian Air Force or something. Like you're not really going to be deployed if you're in a small country, more or less.
Yes, true.
It seems like war is the plan, though, doesn't it, y'all? I mean, look at the geopolitics of the world right now. It seems like war is the plan. And I just happen to think it's every time there's a rising of information that challenges the elite or threatens them, then, war, the drums of war. We hear that every day now. And the psyops with the people coming back from the space shuttle or space station that were supposedly a life-threatening thing all through this time. And then Trump's here and Trump brings them back with Elon. Man, it's right in our faces. The plebs don't see any of that, right? It's just, you can't give people that kind of knowledge. You have to earn it. And this is where you earn it, right here.
There's Andrew's seen the light, right? And then there's other people. There was other people that have woken up that were ex-military. So it's not like you can't reach them. And once they learn about things like the USS Liberty and they learn about the dancing Israelis and they realize like all these false flags have led into wars, Gulf of Tonkin. When they learn about this bullshit, and then there's people that benefit from this, right? The elites could have their war, but nobody shows up. Let's say they, oh guys, we need more soldiers. Or let's say they refuse to go. Like, you know what? Like if they knew about 9/11 being like no one knew at the time. Everyone thought it was an attack, right? And then out of patriotism or whatever, they joined the military. They were deceived. And the same thing with Pearl Harbor and all these psyops.
Trauma-based mind control.
Yeah, it doesn't quite work like that, though, unfortunately. Have you guys ever seen the movie Full Metal Jacket?
I've seen a part of it. Yeah, I don't know if I watched the whole thing.
Yeah,
there was a bald fat guy. He was like tormented and he killed the drill sergeant and then himself. Is that the right movie?
Correct, yes.
Right.
Stanley Kubrick. Yeah. So
the fat pleb guy, he was like tormented. He was like the undisciplined guy, and they hated him and beat him. He was making the other guys get punished because he kept fucking up.
Yeah, it's a pretty common thing in boot camp and also in military training, because people don't get punished individually very often. What happens is they punish everybody as a unit. But when you're going to be talking about the military being trained, everyone has to have the same type of mentality, which is pretty fucked up to think about. But either way, yeah, Private Pio, that's what they called him in the movie. And then what happened?
He cracked. They broke him, but then he snapped back on them. So that's where that kind of shit really fucks with somebody who's a strong-minded person like me. I would never tolerate that kind of disrespect. The drill sergeant would get my fucking knuckle sandwich. I couldn't tolerate that. I'm not cut out for that.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying that this is kind of the mentality aspect of what happens in boot camp, which is the beginning part of, like, you get off the plane, you have your bags, you get naked in front of everybody, and then they check you head to toe. Sort of like going to prison. And then from there,
Ron, you don't want Ben to scream at you to tell you to do
no,
things?
that's what I mean. I'm not wired that way.
Get naked.
I'm not wired that way, dude.
Get your hair cut.
Hey,
No.
the worst thing is on the bus on the way there, you're talking to these people, getting to know them, and after you get your head shaved, you can't tell who the heck you were talking to. Everybody looks the same.
okay, so
That's part of the ceremony. Shaving their heads.
It's not really a ceremony. It's just sort of like that they're trying to make everyone equal. Like everyone's equally
There's
worthless.
sanitation too.
Well, that's
Only equal among plebs because the officers have long hair that they can comb.
That's that communism. That's that communism. It's deeply rooted in the military system.
So you know who's the low man on the rung? The low man on the rung has the shaved head.
They tell you day one, you are owned by the United States military right now. You do not have any sovereignty anymore. You are not a citizen.
I'm not trying to go into the whole aspect of that, like what does GI stand for? But when it comes to people that are going to be in the military, like I chose voluntarily because I was an athlete my entire life, and I wanted to do that. Other people in Vietnam didn't have a choice. If they weren't enrolled into a particular type of like bachelor's degree or associate's degree or anything else, then it was like, all right, you're being drafted, and that's what happened. The draft hasn't happened since then. They talked.
Just curious, who was president when you enlisted?
Bush,
Clinton. But I had a great unit on a Fort Polk, Louisiana. And I was going to the unit prior to that. They were a bunch of great people. They made me an E3 on day one. And so, but it was great. I loved it. But not being under Clinton, I didn't like that.
The reason I'm bringing this up right now is because with my military background and all that technology background, I do believe that during this Trump presidency, we will be going to war again. I don't know exactly how it's going to work out, but I do believe that the United States is definitely, we're going to be going to war.
That's why they got the military prepared.
Yes.
And that's why, and the draft is, I think, will play. If there is a world war, they will try to pull all of our young people up. And who's the most woke, awakened people right now on TikTok that don't believe any of the narratives being spun by the mainstream media because they don't even exist anymore? Right, is the new people coming up my son's age. None of them believe any of the narratives out there. Many of them do believe in flat Earth, or at least question Earth. I definitely don't believe in the moon landings. Most of them have been down all of those conspiracy rabbit holes.
Yeah, but that's a separate category entirely when it comes to people that are in the federal government, because everyone It's in the military.
But-
It works for the DoD.
My point is this time it would be different because all the young people would be awakened to the narrative because of social media, because of the awareness of an information society that we live in now.
Yeah, like Vietnam didn't have this level of information sharing amongst the young people, and even then, a lot of young people didn't want anything to do with it. They're like, you know what, I don't want anything, and they went to Canada or they renounced their citizenship or did whatever, so they didn't have to participate in that bankster war.
Now, yes, even though that is correct, with people that were going to become conscientious, I'm saying that wrong, conscientious objectors. Like, yeah, I don't believe in this war, therefore I'm not going to fight. That's
Well,
cool.
Bill Clinton did that, right?
Yeah.
Didn't Bill Clinton dodge the draft?
Well, you know, yeah, I think that may be the story, or there's something connected with that with him. But you know what's wild about that is that. Sorry, go ahead. No, I got distracted by something. Go ahead. I'll come back in a sec.
When it comes to people that are going to be forced into military positions, they're at the lowest rank, and a lot of them are like, fuck you, I don't want to be here, and then they can use the conscientious, I keep saying it wrong, the objector, meaning this is an immoral type of activity I don't agree with, and therefore I'm not going to participate. But
Well, yeah.
there's a caveat to that. Like, you are in this position, and you have to participate, which is pretty fucked up.
Yeah,
Myself,
those are definitely
I volunteer.
different.
Yeah, one of the best
choice versus by force. What I was gonna say before, just real quick on the thing about the hippies and all that in the 60s, I was just gonna say briefly, like, you know, now, like, with a lot of stuff we're talking, people say, you know, there's like shills and, you know, anti this and that, and, you know, there's all the kind of tension around, you know, people, you know, the whole Agent Smith, you know, idea and all that kind of stuff, let alone like actual operatives and agents and stuff, or just people opposing, and then, you know, the perspective of like truth and people opposing that. Well, back then, like, I mean, the hippies basically, there was just this whole group of people that were like, you know, protesting against the Vietnam War, meaning not, yeah, drafting and taking their brothers and sisters to be killed. They didn't agree with it, you know, in war and all that stuff. And they were talking out about it, but then they had all the resistance against them, you know, like even some of their peers, you know, would like spit on them or like say they were, you know, being idiots or whatever. So like they were getting attacked by even their peers, you know. So it's just funny how now we call like Agent Smith or like shills or, you know, whatever it may be. But like back then there was like still a lot of opposition to that level of rebellion that was happening. That was maybe in like a different format. It's not in the same context as talking about truth and stuff like, you know, right now. But in a way it is, because they were kind of, you know, the protesters were like calling out, you know, what they were trying to say was the truth of what was really going on there, you know, and why they're being deceived to go fight for an unjust situation. So I just find it interesting that, like, yeah, just that the opposition, they had their own kind of type of opposition back then to just in that, in such a simplistic form, like, hey, let's not go kill each other. Like, it's pretty basic, like protesting
But
against.
I don't know if those were agent provocateurs, like spitting on soldiers coming back, or like the legit hippie was like he would never do something like that because they were just about peace and they know they would get their ass kicked by some dude just coming back from combat. Wouldn't take that shit, right? So that hippie would be toothless. If you just came back a hardened combat veteran and someone does that to you, some punk ass hippie is getting wrecked. He's gonna have his jaw wired shut, like without question, and they would never do that today. But you don't disrespect the soldier, like you could be in agreement, like I don't want you going to die in this pointless war. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with Americans going to die in this bankster war. I don't want you to go. I'm looking out for you. I'm not there to spit on you or disrespect you. Like I think those were agents. I don't think that the normal hippie would do something like that.
No, yeah, that is interesting. I did kind of wind that in there. Yeah, that whole because that was also publicized. You know, when you think about the psyop level of like the thing that gets out there, you know, that rings in people's minds, where they're like, oh, like you hear so many people will say that, you know.
Every time they have a camera handy, right? People didn't have cameras. Like every one of these psyops happens to have a camera, right? Like, oh my God, look, there's a camera that caught it. Just like the Hindenburg, cameras were rare. Oh my God, the Hindenburg is landing. Oh my God, the whole event only lasted a few seconds, but someone was there to capture it, and that was like mundane. Like every day, there's an airplane landing every few minutes at the airport. Who's there with a film crew?
Isn't that ironic? Isn't that ironic because they don't have hardly any cameras on spaceships nowadays? Yet in the old days, they had all these cameras filming all these events and atrocities.
Just waiting for it, and he had a live mic. Oh, the humanity! Like he's got a microphone. Like back then, they had like silent film. Like how does he have a mic? He's like ready for the whole fucking psyop. And what happened to airships? They just went away. No more airships. One psyop.
Yeah, and did you know, to Scott Arthur's point about targeting the children? In fact, that's what supposedly killed Socrates, or got him killed. His influence on the young, because the young were used for war, and he was getting to them to think for themselves and start using the Socratic method, and then that led to him. His charge was corrupting the youth, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, like Vietnam had a bunch of teenagers. Like a lot of the people were under 19 years old. So you have like 17, 18, 19-year-old kids that they can't even buy a beer, but they can go die in combat. They're very naive. And even today, like the kids that grew up playing Fortnite and then Call of Duty or whatever, they'll shoot at first-person shooter games. Even the military, the United States military made a game that was like a first-person shooter game. It was a free game. And it desensitizes and it teaches you skill sets to like shoot on other. It might be like a cartoon like Fortnite, but you get used to targeting and using weapons to shoot and kill other characters in a game. And then if it's done, let's say on a drone, if you're flying a drone, it's no different than a video game. Like you're used to controlling the controller on a video game. The drone pilot could be like a kid that's good at video games, and to him it's no different. Like, okay, oh cool, I'm firing rockets, and it's just you don't get the sense that you're doing any harm. You're just scoring kills in a game.
Yeah, what you're talking about right now is a movie that I don't really like it very much. It's called Ender's Game. Did you ever see that?
No.
Okay, so it's a futuristic type of a movie where there's this young kid that's really, really good at video games, and there's like this alien invasion or something, and they train him on all of the aspects of learning how to fight the enemy, but it's all computer-based and things like that. And then finally, at the finale of the movie, he got so good at doing that, he didn't actually realize he was actually fighting the enemy. Then he wins.
He just thought he was training and playing a game the whole time.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, Ender's Game.
Interesting plot twist. Yeah, like how would you really know? Let's say, okay, you're flying this. This is just a simulation, son. It's like it's made to look real, but that's just how the simulation works. So you're pretend flying the drone over Afghanistan. There's the enemy. You have to pretend kill the enemy. There he is. Like and he's actually firing like missiles on the enemy.
Right, because the empathy that you're killing millions of living people or beings. would change
Maybe
your.
not millions, but say a couple hundred a day. You
Well,
just
even that.
here's some more.
Even that, yeah.
Yeah, the empathy part is a huge part when it comes to if you think you're just playing a video game, but in reality, the conclusion is that wasn't. When it comes to
it feels like it's a system of control, and like we're the slaves, then the leaders are the puppets, and the controllers. Somebody mentioned earlier a name for them, the hand, or something like
the
that.
invisible hand or the
Yeah,
glass
The
ceiling.
hidden hand.
I like that.
Hidden hand, invisible hand, kind of the same concept. Yeah, it's a business.
There's no you can go buy them.
Or UN's going. So the first,
And then they won't be part of the machinery of war, right? They won't be a useful idiot, another cog. They can't. If they have a party and no one shows up, then we've diffused it. We've diffused their war. They can't have a war without participants.
Yeah, that doesn't work though.
What doesn't work?
I think there are rules to their game, or to this game, or this whatever their plan is for the future and for us and our prison planet or Middle Earth here. I think there are rules, and when we push back and we gain steam, I think that's when they have to change their plans and alter them. But their plan still moves on, though, right?
Let me give you a scenario. Let's say that they had some kind of martial law in the United States, and the soldiers were ordered to fire on American citizens. How many of them would follow the orders? How many would defect? Like, what do you think the threshold of people that joined under Trump, like good Americans, how many of them would fire on their fellow Americans?
I'll explain.
Not many, I don't think, but that they have a plan for that. They already have it written into law, signed into law by our Congress and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in the case of a natural disaster or something like that. The UN can come in, and the first thing they have to do is disarm the area that they're going to. They have to make safe the place that the UN's going. So the first they have to go and disarm. We all remember New Orleans and Katrina and all that. They're going to try to disarm the people with the UN, right? And that's one of the first steps. I mean, they have to declare natural disaster area, and that's when they're going to be pushing us into the 15-minute cities. They have a plan for we all know that, right? And so we can't just sit back and say, okay, we're just going to wait around. No, we need like what Earth Awakenings is really all about, I think, is mass awareness, or the reach of it, or the attempt to get there.